Greetings, gardeners! Aloha! It is a beautiful morning here in Hawaii, and I have a visitor. This is Christopher Shine. As you can tell from his t-shirt, Christopher Shine is an instructor at Merritt College in Oakland, California. He does horticulture and permaculture. Many of you know what permaculture is, and so actually I think Christopher was the first guy who ever applied that term to me. Familiar with it. I had read a number of the famous books like One Straw Revolution and so on before we met, but there was a time, I believe you were probably reading Seed Savers Exchange from Decorah, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and well, you tell them, in your words, how did we end up getting together?
Well, with my friend Sasha DeBril, with a group of friends in Berkeley, we started the Bay Area Seed Interchange Library, and it's still existing about 18 years later, and it's a grassroots effort to save local varieties and trade them around, and kind of a reaction against the whole Monsanto politics of corporatization and commodification of every seed. And so it's like, if we get everybody else in the world saving their own seeds, we don't need to buy our seeds from them. And so we found you, because you had all these really fun tree tomatoes and strawberry guavas and all these things we'd only read about in the permaculture books. We'd never known anyone was growing them in California.
Yep, I was the sole guy with certain crops and seed savers, so I guess I kind of jumped out. So I ended up with a whole troop, and Christopher and his friends and Sasha coming by my place in California at that time. It's almost 20 years back, I think now. Pretty close, isn't it? Yeah. And so we got together and saw this kindred situation, and so we've been associated one way or another that whole time. Christopher has brought people through my garden at the past, and then I have also sat in doing a few classes with Christopher at the college at times. Now I'm over here on the Big Island, and so Christopher comes by here with the family for vacation periodically, and he drops in to stay with us. And I think past the meet and greet here, so now you know who we are. What I'd like to try to do here is I want to go around the farm, and I'd like to try to discuss the differences between growing in temperate gardening and agriculture and tropical gardening and agriculture, because wow, I'll tell you what, I thought I was an expert until I moved here from the mainland, and now I am really starting at ground floor. This is Tropical 101 again. So let's go have a look at some of the crops that are succeeding and failing. I don't often show you the stuff that fails. So over here behind us, we have Owari Satsuma, my favorite mandarin orange. Now the Owari Satsuma is something that I became familiar with while living in California. The tree grows very well in the Bay Area. It's abundant, and if you got enough time to wait for the fruit to reach peak, which takes almost 10 years from planting, they become just incredible. This one here is, we're about 9 years. It's just getting to the point where it's starting to be delicious. Now this is a tree that actually grows about as well here in Hawaii as it does in California. Now what I really like about this guy is that zipper skin. It just peels right off. You can actually do this with one thumb, which is pretty neat. There are almost no seeds inside this fruit. It segments nicely, and it is sweet, delicious. And earlier in Hawaii, when in California, this fruit really isn't ripe until almost New Year's around the bay. Here in Hawaii, not even Thanksgiving yet. This stuff's ready to go. They're going to probably be rotten by Christmas if I don't get them picked down. But it's an excellent fruit. You can see here by the yield on the tree that it looks good. It's not quite as good as what I got out of the trees in California. But here, our biggest problems with raising the plant are lack of nutrients, because the soil flushes out here so fast. It just drains like a sieve. I guess you could compare it to mainland soils if you were raising on sand. It's about the same situation, because it's just all volcanic ash, and everything goes right down through it so fast it isn't funny. And so keeping the nitrogen and the phosphorus and such at the level of the roots is a problem here. With constant reapplication, we don't waste anything in this environment at all. I mean, newspapers decompose, cardboard decomposes, and especially kitchen garbage. The kitchen garbage gets underneath almost all these fruit trees constantly. Worms will work it down and create a release of nutrients. But another problem here too with the soil pHs. Ordinarily, soil pHs tend to get so low, so they're so acidic, that the plants, it locks up phosphorus. And so the phosphorus can't move either. Without that, we get poor root systems and no flowers and so on. And so, in California, oftentimes when a fruit tree became well established in the environment, most of the time the trees could manage to forage fairly well for themselves and find enough nutrient in California soil to produce crops with very minimal fertilizer applications. It's not true here. Here you're either going to be constantly applying nutrients, or you're going to have a permaculture system that's operating where you have guilds of plants that one plant will be feeding the other plant. I've done videos on stick mulch here. That's one of the concepts. Living cover crops that are turned in and killed, whatever. If you don't plan for that kind of an operation here in Hawaii, you're probably going to find out that nothing fruits. Here we are, and we're out in front of the house, and Christopher mentioned something about the dragon fruit. So
yeah, just something about how is it possible in Hawaii to get fruit practically globally? Like, this is a Central American fruit, right? Mm-hmm. And how is it doing so well here, and what kind of varieties you're doing? You're doing some new trellising systems, it looks like. Developing? It's
been an ongoing, you could call it a struggle, a development, whatever. It's a learning experience, the dragon fruit. I guess I had never really had much contact with this particular fruit until I came here. Hawaii was really my introduction. You really have to be eating the fresh fruit from this plant before you start to really understand, I think, what it's all about. And so here in Hawaii, I just happened to meet a guy named Greg Adams, who was a dragon fruit farmer, and he had a number of different varieties there. We had a chance to taste the pink and the red type dragon fruits ripe right off of his plants, and what I found out is that no matter how ripe and how well organically grown and so on the red and pink type dragon fruits are, I did not find them particularly appealing. And so Greg is the guy who helped turn me on to what we have all around us here, because he had in the back of his property the yellow dragon fruit, sometimes called Solenocerius megalanthus. Occasionally it's referred to as Hylocereus megalanthus. It really depends, on your classification. Things change. I like to call it Solenocerius because it divides it from the others clearly in my mind. Anyway, I found that the yellow type not only does better here in Mountain View's environment, but the quality of the flesh, that's what it's all about. And any of the dragon fruits that are related to this or are hybrids of it, all of them have much better taste, higher sugar content than the red and pink ones that we find commonly in the market. Now, these are a favorite in Europe. The Israelis raise a massive amount of this fruit and its hybrids for the European market. We don't get it here, and part of the problem is the thorns. They have thorns on the fruit. As you can see right here, they are spiny little guys. Now these spines come right off with a brush, and so they're no big deal, and they're well worth the fact that the fruit is superior to the others. I definitely recommend putting up with the spines so you can get the best flesh. But as Christopher mentioned, yes, plants from everywhere, Central America, Africa, you name it, plants come here to Hawaii. Most things that land in Hawaii, the majority of them take hold. This is a very benign climate, and it's flexible. You'll see as we tour the farm where plants have come from all sorts of different places, and many of them all grow well here. Same thing gets through with plants and bugs and critters that were brought in that we didn't want. They do well here too. But this is a Central American cactus, Caribbean cactus. It's native to growing on trees in that region. And so we've simulated trees here. Now my old attempts used copper arsenate treated farmer fence posts, and what I found was that the roots don't adhere too well to this. You have to tie them up if you want to keep them on these posts. So I started changing things, and right here behind Christopher you'll see that I have coconut fiber applied to the posts. And I've discovered that not only does the coconut fiber make a better medium for the roots, but it also allows the roots to feed in the air. I find that the older cactus do not feed very well from ground level. They gradually make more roots up top. And if you don't have a way to feed the cactus in the air, it's going to start to starve, and you will get this, chlorosis during blooming and fruiting. And so my old specimens still experience this bloom season chlorosis. See, now I brought Christopher up, and we're looking at some new systems that I'm using that I call the dragon tree here. So Chris, what do you see?
Looks like you've used your farmer posts, and then you've put the coconut coir to give it somewhere to climb up. You can see all the roots all much more extensively on this one compared to your first attempt. And then you have a maybe a 2-foot T on the top. Something like that, and then yeah, no chlorosis, and so you give them a little bit of fertilizer right up the whole length of it. Yeah, that's the point. This system allowed me to apply liquid fertilizers in the air, and that solved the problem of chlorosis, because if I was only feeding this plant at ground level, it would remain somewhat chlorotic as it forced itself through fruiting and flowering, would start to deplete nutrients out of its own tissue. But with the coconut fiber, I can take fish emulsion or any other similar liquid fertilizer and apply it to the post, and then feed the roots in both the air and on the ground. So we use liquids up in the air and solids down over there at the soil. I'm also utilizing chips from hardwood down here. One of our local cabinet makers brings me mango and ohia. I think this must be ohia here. It's nice and orange. And we spread it underneath here, and I have spawned mushrooms into it. We have wine cap straparia, and right here you can see those white patches there, whereas the mycelium is running into new sawdust I put down. And these fruited heavily last year. They've done a little fruiting this year. I'm assuming they will start to fruit stronger as we get deeper into winter. It's more of a winter thing here. But this mushroom will eat nematodes. And we have problems with nematodes in soil here, the root knot. Well, this thing, when the mushroom mycelium spreads through the wood chips, and if the nematodes try to get near the cacti, the mycelium has little snares that will grab the nematodes and digest them. And so my nematodes all become mushrooms, and we eat them for breakfast in our scrambled eggs.